Hey, greetings everyone. It is GleeCon, and I'm here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On the last episode, we continued to push through Duskwood with our heroes. Um, we killed some spiders, some wolves, and a little bit of the undead, but really we just kind of ran around and ran some errands, getting some ghost hair. A lot of that is a theme in Duskwood, where you're kind of doing these back and forth sort of errands, little fetch quests almost. And yeah, we kicked off some of those. And really, not to minimize the zone, because a lot of the lore is really cool. It's like the families and the town and how the Duskwood became what it is. Really building up that with these snippets and these storylines. It's one of the most lore-rich zones, which makes it pretty fun. We've also been reading through the World of Warcraft official magazine. You can see the cover of one of these issues here. This was a run that started with BlizzCon in 2009. They decided it would be cool to make a high-quality premium magazine that was a quarterly. Dan's about 150 pages per issue, and they were going to charge a pretty decent price, I think, for whatever a magazine would be back then. I don't remember how much. I saw a price point somewhere when I Googled this, but a fair amount for a magazine subscription, especially for back in 2009. And they made the first year's worth, the first 4 issues, which we've read on the previous episodes. And that got us up to, it all covered the year leading up to and then right at the drop of Cataclysm. So this issue represents, okay, we're starting year 2. It's the second volume, the first issue. So this is the 5th total issue. And this would be spring of 2000, maybe 11. And so now we're a few months into, 4 or 5 months into Cataclysm when this is dropping. And you see Ragnaros there, as you see the Firelands was probably big. We're probably going to talk about that some. And I'm wondering if we'll notice, because what happened is after this issue, sort of abruptly, they just canceled the series. So this issue is also interesting from my point, where I'm going to look to see if we can see any clues as to whether it's an overt announcement that, hey, this will be the last one, or if we see some just clues that show maybe some people know it's over, or if nothing else, can we see some cracks in the, the armor of showing that maybe this is not as stable. So stay a while and listen as we kick off with this issue. Here we have some musical. I'm not a musician, so I couldn't even tell you if these were like upside down or not, but it looks like some musical notes. I used to be able to read music a little bit. I did take a few years of piano in high school, and a year of it in college, and I still just haven't touched a piano since. So I can't play anymore, and I didn't play it long enough to have it ingrained in my muscle memory, and it's gone. But I did take a year of it in college, and I did take 2 years of it in high school. Okay, it says, do not adjust your magazine. For the first time in a long while, I'm not talking about Cataclysm in this space. This is intended. World of Warcraft is more than the latest expansion. The game has amazing breadth, with so many challenges to conquer and so many places to see. Its reach goes beyond even Azeroth, and we go out there to bring it to you. We travel back in time, very far back to the beginning of the Warcraft universe, to bring you the start of an exclusive epic comic series drawn by Alex Horley, written by Chris Metzen, and scripted by James Waugh. Warcraft Saga tells the story of how the universe got to be the way it is today. We'll be bringing you the entirety of this comic in future issues. Well, that's a bummer, because there are no future issues, so I wonder if this is something that begins here that we get to actually read and then we never see again. Bummer. Although it's not the cosmos, Blizzard headquarters in Southern California is its own universe. Well, let's look and see. Right now I've got to check Warcraft Saga. It's a comic miniseries, issue 1. Only one issue is ever published. However, Mickey Nielsen said the story will continue. It was reprinted to annual 2015. Some little weird magazine. We'll probably read that at some point. But they reprinted it in this. Okay, so no. Short. The short of it is that no, it's not. This is it. Which that's a bummer because it sounds actually awesome. Although it's not in the cosmos, Blizzard headquarters in Southern California is its own universe, an exotic place that many would like to visit. We take you behind the scenes to meet some of the movers and shakers in the company. Check out our in-depth profile of Frank Pierce, one of Blizzard's co-founders. Frank has been pretty good at staying out of the spotlight until now, so this is a rare opportunity to learn more about him. Music has the power to transport you nearly anywhere, and it's a key component of the World of Warcraft experience. We chat with the team that creates the soundtrack to your travels in Azeroth and learn what a nyckelharpa is, as you can hear one in Grizzly Hills. That must be a musical instrument. Don't forget about the game. We've got a rundown of the new content introduced in the latest content update, including the Firelands raid featuring Ragnaros. I think you'll be blown away by the look of the place. Happy trails, Marty Cortinas. So same editor-in-chief. So that sounds like they have a vision for the future. Subscribe today and save. Maybe that's a new thing. They don't. I'm just scanning for any info. I really don't see a lot. I see poundage rate. A 1-year subscription is 42 pounds. But that's in Great Britain. It doesn't. I'm not seeing it dollars for the US. $40 a year. So that right there is a little bit of a sticking point. $40 a year is a bit expensive for a magazine that has 4 issues. Patrick Helm has drawn this picture. That's a pretty cool one of an ancient. The cover, in addition to the cover of this magazine, Ron Jez's work can be seen in upcoming sets of the World of Warcraft trading card game. Contributors James Bernard Frost is the author of World Leader Pretend, a novel about gamers published by St. Martin's Press. He prefers Horde, but plays Alliance because of his friends. I think we read that last time. Shanna Germain is a writer-editor, Leximaven, and Geek of the Highest Standing. I believe also this is from the last issue as well, when she's not penning articles and fictions about video games, futuristic societies, and sexy chemicals. She's making steampunk laser guns and running her Shadow Priest through dungeons. Visit her at blah, blah, blah. Want your work in a magazine? We're always on the lookout for writers and artists with deep knowledge of the Warcraft universe. If you'd like to contribute, send pitches and resumes to blah, 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 blah. All right, so here's what we're going to get in this issue. Warcraft Saga Chapter 1, Uncover the Truth Behind the Titans, in the first part of an ongoing original comic. That's dope. That's a cool picture. Frankly, he gives a damn. Frank Pierce is one of, a little pun on his name, one of Blizzard's co-founders, and he knows how to get things done. Just don't ask him to answer the phone. Feeling the burn, patch 4.2 Rage of the Firelands opens broader vistas for you to explore, and a familiar nemesis becomes a hot issue once again. The Art of War updated. Cataclysm brings the fight to new landscapes. Battle for Gilneas and Twin Peaks and PvP. Yippee, my least favorite thing. Because it's my least favorite thing in World of Warcraft. Alright, so some features. What will we get in addition? Azeroth through a lens. Since the release of the game, players have turned Azeroth into a virtual Hollywood lot, expanding, poking fun at, and molding the world to tell their own stories. Stand aside Spielberg, hit the road Hitchcock. These Fellwood filmmakers can teach you a thing or two. Well, that's interesting. Okay, we also have the sound. From the looped bleeps and bloops of early arcade games to the symphonic scores of today's titles, sound has always played an integral part in the gaming experience. We sat down with the group responsible for scores and voices in the Blizzard universe and discussed their tricks, tools, and motivations behind the oral side of Azeroth. I mean, I guess how many interviews can they do before they run out of those? Vanity Darkmoon Fair. Marty Cortinas, editor-in-chief, chooses his favorite armor sets and picks which class has had the best ongoing tier sets. Hint, it's the class he plays. Warcraft Saga Chapter 1. Separate truth from the myths and legends of the Titans in the first installment of an ongoing original comic by Chris Metzen, Alex Horley, and James Waugh. Then they move on to Tactics, Macro Machines. Sure, you understand your spell rotation, your heals all land at the right time, and your tanking leaves bosses trembling with despair, but are you really getting everything you can out of your spells and abilities? If you want to take things to the next level, then you have to think big. Think macros. The Heights of the Depths. Many remember Black Rock Depths as one of the oldest and most epic of all dungeons. We went to Blizzard to unearth what made this dungeon so unique and daunting. The Lore Corner, ramblings, ruminations, and representations from Bran Bronzebeard's ever-evolving journal. That sounds cool. Play It Your Way, Tanks. Tanking is all about access to information and knowing how to respond to that information. The UI helps immensely with the first part. Research and wiping covers the second. The community articles are on the lookout for luck. Success in Azeroth isn't limited to the skilled and determined, so it doesn't hurt to be a little superstitious. Life at 85. Hitting the level cap isn't the end of your adventures in Azeroth, but the beginning. Filling in the gaps, the artists and editors at DC Comics create enormously detailed comics that illustrate the Warcraft universe. They invited us to find out exactly how they go from thought to pencil to print. There is it. I mean, that's cool. There are some good comics. We read one. And the other columns to end the game are Sound Off, what was the most difficult raid for its time. Players recall Naxxramas at its nastiest, Sunwell Plateau at its most sinister, the chilly Ice-Crowned Citadel, and a burning molten core. Remote ways to play. Players aren't always able to be in a comfy chair at their home, but that doesn't stop them from getting into Azeroth. Going it alone, taking down a raid boss can be a tall order, but with some strategy and brute force, these players manage it solo. Community Artist Spotlight, creative visions of Azeroth from the players who live there. Play nice, play fair. It's important to treat other players as people, not pixels. It all starts with you. And Gnome vs. Goblin comic, a lesson in being a loot ninja. You know what I'm not seeing is the obligatory DPS healer tank columns. So that's interesting. But we do get to keep Gnome versus Goblin. All right, so I think we're going to probably just read one feature today. We'll see how long it is, but since they normally kick off with the longest article, that's par for the course. This is called Feeling the Burn. Patch 4.2 opens broader vistas for you to explore, and a familiar nemesis becomes a hot issue once again in Rage of the Firelands. The illustration is by Gustav Schmidt. As an achievement hound, clearing all of the achieves for the Firelands is one of the longest, most daunting things that you can do. It took me an entire summer once. Few places in Azeroth have felt the fiery punishment of Deathwing more than Mount Hyjal. The dragon's flames have licked what was once a green paradise, charring the land and setting the forests ablaze in hatred. Through much effort and your invaluable help, the Guardians of Hyjal have pushed back the Twilight's hammer, banished Ragnaros to a retreat inside the Sulfuron Spire, and even begun to repair and regrow the forests. However, a victory in one battle does not ensure a successful war. Mount Hyjal may have been defended from a fiery onslaught, but now you must take the offensive and lead the battle deep into the Firelands. Yeah, there's a portal that you get when you go there, and they've got actually some cool, a lot of people getting ready. Daily growth. If you're level 85 and have quested through Mount Hyjal and regrown and repaired the Sanctuary of Malorn, you can begin a new series of quests by aiding Malfurion Stormrage in opening a portal into the Firelands. The task is more complicated than it seems. Along the way, some allies will fall, and one very powerful friend will enter the scene. Upon passing through the portal, which engulfs your character in flames, you'll be greeted with a massive expanse of craggy cliffs, blazing waterfalls, and plains of molten lava beds, which look likely to crumble away at any moment. This area within the Firelands, known as the Molten Front, is designed for daily questing and holds a force of villainy. Fandral Staghelm becomes the founder of what we are calling the Druids of the Flame, Dave Kosak, lead quest designer, explains. They're basically taken under Ragnaros' wing, and we actually see them recently. They've made a reappearance in Dragonflight, whatever. He's taken all of the fervor that marks the Druids' bond with nature and instead connected it with the element of fire. They have tremendous perversions of druid abilities. For example, instead of a cat form, they turn into flaming tigers. In the Molten Front, the first task is to create a beachhead, Malfurion's Breach, from which to maintain a stronghold against these misguided druids. It's from this hub that you'll aid the Guardians of Hyjal in a series of daily progressive quests. Enjoy the lush forests of Hyjal while you can. Things are going to heat up once again. That's a cool picture of him fighting an elemental Malfurion. Once you've opened up the Molten Front questing area, your main objective is to plant and grow the Sentinel Tree. This enormous tree has roots within Azeroth, but grows and provides shelter in the Firelands, Dave says. The Molten Front's climate is so incredibly harsh that the Druids require this magical tree as a shelter while they stage their attacks and keep watch over the war zone. Completing the dailies over a series of weeks alters the landscape and questing options. You will personally see that hub evolve over time. The Sentinel Tree will grow. You'll unlock new parts of the hub, gradually opening up more daily quests. Players may remember the Isle of Quel'Danas and how that was a realm-wide progression. This is similar, but it's a personal progression. Everyone will be able to see all the events transpire. I like that a lot better because it doesn't lock you out. Like, there's certain things you could just never see again because they were realm-wide. The progression involves more than 60 daily quests, enough to fill half of a zone with content. With such a large number of quests come variety, and in this case, choices. After establishing and protecting a stronghold in Malfurion's Breach over the course of weeks, you'll be able to unlock one of two different paths, the Druids of the Talon or the Shadow Wardens, eventually unlocking the other as well. Each path contains unique quests. One charges headfirst into the Forlorn Spire, the enemy's command post, and the other dives deep into the Furnace, a subterranean cavern where rock bridges cover expanses of churning lava. The dailies in each path are randomized and dependent on the current world state, how large the tree has grown, so the selection is ever changing with the progression. It's not phasing, Dave assures in BlizzCast 16. So if you and I are doing dailies together, it's not that you've progressed farther than I, so I can't see you. You and I will be in the same hub, and I'll see how far I've progressed, and you'll see how far you've progressed, and it will look different to us, but we'll basically be in the same place. So if we want to do some of the dailies together, we can. Being able to call on your friends for help will prove to be a very good thing, because the Molten Front is a menacing place. If this is what's waiting outside the Firelands raid, imagine the horrors lurking on the inside. Those little worms. The Molten Front is adjacent to the raid area, Dave says, so you'll definitely feel the presence of the raid bosses. Druids of the Flame will periodically appear in columns of fire, bearing messages from Ragnaros and his lieutenants and assaulting the Sentinel Tree. Don't worry, you'll have a chance to strike back without even setting a foot inside the raid. There's a bombing run quest where you fly over from the daily area and bomb the raid area to help the people who are going to the raid. We're really trying to connect the story together so you feel like you're a part of what's going on. That's actually pretty cool, but there's not like... That's sort of defunct because there's no longer like people marching to the raid in a way where they need help. A fiery wasteland dripping with lava and covered in pyro-inspired creatures, dangerous druids, and a visiting raid boss or two, which, with all of this grief, the rewards are plentiful. Aside from lore, providing a smooth transition between Mount Hyjal's quests and the Firelands raid, you can expect a bountiful bevy of loot. You'll be collecting currency called Marks of the World Tree, which you can use to upgrade the hub, Dave says. When the hub is fully upgraded, you get an achievement and a very cool flaming hippogriff. There are a lot of neat toys, trinkets, cool mounts, and flavor stuff you can get by doing the daily quests. As cool as it is, Deathwing will simply laugh at the sight of a flaming hippogriff beneath his own massive wingspan. If you want to face off against the dragon, gear from a plain and simple tailor is not going to cut it. You'll need to head into the 10 and 25 player Firelands raids to outfit yourself with the epic goodies needed to take on an epic baddie. Baddies mean a little something different nowadays. Okay, raiding Firelands. Questing to help build a Sentinel tree is a big part of the Firelands experience, but it's not the only one. There's a huge raid instance to tackle as well. If you're worried about the time commitment to building the tree and killing Ragnaros, don't. Although the story ties the daily quests and the raid battles together, neither is dependent on the other. You don't need to do the dailies to have a shot at punching Ragnaros in the face. That's true. The zone is immense, not really a dungeon. The environment is more akin to Caverns of Time Hyjal Summit than Molten Core. When you first roll in the vista, laid out in front of you is this huge volcanic wasteland with Sulfuron Keep in the background, says Scott Mercer, lead encounter designer. The bosses, there are 7 of them, aren't laid out in a linear fashion. You'll be able to choose your own path, at least for the first 4 encounters, as you fight your way to Ragnaros' latest lair. Beth'Telak is a huge fiery spider boss, and her lair is one of the most striking in World of Warcraft. During the fight, your team will have to master climbing her webs in order to defeat her. Lord Rylith is a massive magma giant that will have to be directed around by attacking his feet, steering him into painful volcanoes. In order to defeat Shanox, your raid will have to deal with the Flamewalker Hunter's pets, a pair of burning hounds. Alisrazor, or Alice Razor, is an ascended creature of flame, since it's a dragon, Alisrazor. A dragon whose form has been twisted by the elements. If the name sounds familiar, it should. Players assisted the green dragon, Alizra, during their adventures in Hyjal, where she was in charge of keeping Fandral Staghelm imprisoned until the Twilight's Hammer got to her. Players can bring Alizra's draconic form to justice in Mount Hyjal, but killing her in her flame-enhanced Alizrazar form will require a small army. Balrog, a huge elemental monstrosity, guards the gate leading to Sulfuron Keep. Defeat him and you'll face Ragnaros' top assistant, the Fire Druid, now known as Major Domo Staghelm. This Major Domo doesn't have a raft of assistants to do his fighting for him like Executus did in the Molten Core, but he's quite a handful on his own, as he calls upon fiery cat and scorpion forms to lay waste to those foolhardy enough to seek an audience with Ragnaros. That would be a cool class, or a cool spec that druids could get to let them become fire druids. As with all the new raids, players who conquer the Firelands will have the opportunity to try heroic modes with added challenge as well as better loot. As a bonus, raids that face heroic Ragnaros will experience the Lord of Fire in a completely different light. You might want to look up ambulatory. It just means like it can move. Here's Ragnaros. Fiery foes, some new faces, and some familiar ones. Tempt raiders with ultimate glory or a quick death. Quick death. And Beth'Telak the spider. Majordomo Staghelm. I think maybe that's the giant. That's pretty cool, actually. It's a cool picture. Blizzard is not pulling any punches with the Firelands raid. Artistically, we've got our coolest models and some eye-popping terrain all packed into the raid, Dave says. We're definitely putting a lot into this one. It's a whole world of its own. It's really pretty scary, and it looks absolutely fantastic. As with cowbells, there can always be more fire. And Chris... more cowbells. And Chris Metzen assures us that pyromaniacs will not be disappointed. The fire itself is on fire, he jokes. Ah ha ha. There is Lord Rylith. It's kind of cool. They do a good job framing these pictures. Shanox. He's got the 2 wolves, and he's gross. He looks weird. Balrog is who that tall guy was, or Balrog. All right, so here, I guess, is a growing legendary weapons that you can get. Nordrassil's Bow is a quest item. The Branch of Nordrassil, the Rune Staff of Nordrassil, and Dragon Wrath, Rest of Taragosa. Dragon Wrath, Taragosa's Rest comes into play. World of Warcraft is known for being an epic experience, but every now and then it gets legendary. We are adding a legendary weapon into the game, Dave says. The Mage Caster Staff that we promised at BlizzCon will at last come to life. The staff, Dragon Wrath, Taragosa's Rest, is the reward from an epic quest that delves into the mysteries surrounding the convening of the Blue Dragonflight and their search for a new leader and dragon aspect after Malygos' death. The questline is tied in with the new novel Twilight of the Aspects. We'll test your entire guild. I don't think we've read that one yet. This heavy rating is required to forge the weapon through its 4 stages. If successful, the entire guild will be able to benefit, not just the one left wielding the weapon, as players who earn the legendary staff will be able to access a unique flight form that allows them to carry a friend on their back. That's cool. It's like the Sands thing for alchemists. Enthralled. Sinister forces threaten the world's greatest shaman. Yeah, this is a neat questline as well. First, Thrall leaves the Horde, and then he single-handedly maintains the Maelstrom, so citizens of Azeroth can venture into Deepholm. Now he is the center of an epic new questline that threatens his very existence. Man, the orc sure gets around. Thrall is going to be in trouble, Dave explains. He's going to be blown to bits, basically. His own connection with the elements is going to be exploited, and his whole spirit will be torn apart and scattered into the elemental planes. If you're level 85, you can begin the questline, and with your aid, all hope may not be lost. Agra will not give up on him. Together you'll venture with Agra out into the different elemental planes. You'll find these fragments of Thrall's spirit, each one representing a different part of Thrall's personality. You'll see his inner turmoil, all his wants and desires, and all the rage he's been bottling up over the years. Those emotions will become physical. You're going to have to fight to get Thrall back. But you'll see these different parts of his spirit, and you'll be responsible for reassembling them back into the Thrall we all know and love. This is actually one of the most memorable questlines in the game, in my opinion. And now everybody's max level, you can go hop and do it whenever you want. More than an exciting quest full of revealing lore, Chris Metzen, Vice President of Creative Development, views the spotlight on Thrall as an ongoing effort to refocus the game's direction. One of the things that seemed to be important as these expansion sets took shape is that we did an increasingly good job of setting up our villains, Chris explains. The Burning Crusade had Illidan, which was largely missing from your path. We did a much better job in Lich King with having Arthas in your path as you leveled up and ultimately as the raid boss. And we did a pretty good job with Deathwing and Cataclysm, making him feel evident, making you feel like you're part of the villain's machinations. It became very clear to us that we really needed to invest in our villains and make them a little more central in your path. And yet they eschew that for the most part. For Myths of Pandaria, and it's because there's not really one big villain per se. What pinged against that was the idea that we weren't necessarily using our super mega heroic NPCs all that well over time. They'd show up from time to time in different quest areas, but we had this pantheon of heroes that we thought could be leveraged a little better. With Cataclysm, we wanted to focus more on Thrall and do some radical things like having him leave the Horde. We felt like he was the lead hero that we had in our stable who would be most relevant to these events. As the worlds fall apart, it's going to need its greatest shaman to step up and save the day, so Patch 4.2 finally sees him come full circle, and we're finally able to really look at his character in a different way and show players things about him that they did not know before. Really changed the state of him at a franchise level. Thrall isn't the only character that you'll have a chance to learn more about. As you tag along with Agra to save Thrall, you'll discover more about the relationship between the two shaman, a relationship that gives her determination and strength for a mission that even the Aspects find hopeless. We want to leverage our heroes as well as we leverage our villains, Chris says, and ultimately as the patches actualize down the road, when we finally do confront Deathwing, Thrall will be in a state of mind and power to really be the great hero that we need him to be. Thrall is going to be very pivotal in the 4.3 patch, Dave says, so it's very important that you save him in 4.2. You're going to need him, Chris concludes. Yeah, that's true. All right, so I think this is a good place. We're right at that 30-minute mark. This is the interview, so rather than getting into the long feature interview, we will go ahead and wrap it here. We did it. Another episode in the Pipe 5x5. Hey, guys, thank you. You rock. We reached a major milestone recently. We're halfway to official. So all of you out there, new, old, long time. We've been going almost 2 years now. Coming up on our 2-year anniversary, and it's been a really fun run. And as recently was just said in a comment on one of the last videos by old Cuzzy, there was a long period of time where we had 10, 8, 9, 10 survivors. I mean, subscribers, and I'd get maybe one a month sometimes. And it's definitely much different. There was really the first year of the show was slow like that, and so this past year has been pretty good, and you guys are awesome. I mean, I'm still not making gangbusters numbers, but just to get a few, sometimes 1, 2, 3 extra subscribers a day is pretty cool, considering we would get less than that in a month for the first year or so. So we're building up, and you guys are awesome, and I want to keep making the show better and be more entertaining for you all. And I hope that I give you some interesting exposure to some stuff and find you some deep gems, and I'll keep trying to push that out. And whether you like the reading or whether you like the playthroughs, I'll keep trying to push it better. But I appreciate you guys all. Thank you so much. It gives me a lot of joy, and I'll see everybody on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.